Book of Heaven, Volume 12, Part 5. February 17th, 1918. The heat of the divine will destroys imperfections. I was feeling a little distracted, and pouring myself into the holy will of God, I was asking forgiveness for my distraction. And Jesus told me, "My daughter, the sun with its heat destroys the miasma, the infectious part of manure, when it is spread in the soil to fecundate the plants. Otherwise they would rot and would end up withering. Now, the heat of my will, as soon as the soul enters into it, destroys the infection, the defects that the soul has contracted in her distraction. Therefore, as soon as you feel the distraction, do not remain within yourself, but enter immediately into my will, so that my heat may purify you and prevent it from making you wither." March 4th, 1918. Firmness produces heroism. Continuing in my usual state, I was lamenting to Jesus about my poor state, and he told me, "My daughter, courage. Do not move in anything. Firmness is the greatest virtue. Firmness produces heroism, and it is almost impossible that one not be a great saint. Even more, as she keeps repeating her acts, she forms two bars, one to the right and the other to the left, that serve her as support and defense. And as she reiterates her acts, a font forms within her of new and increasing love. Firmness strengthens grace, and places on it the seal of final perseverance. Your Jesus does not fear that his graces may remain without effects, and therefore I pour them in torrents over the constant soul. From a soul who today operates and tomorrow does not, who now does one good, now another, there is not much to expect. She shall not have any support, and shall be bounced now to one point, now to another. She shall die of hunger, because she shall not have the font of firmness that makes love arise. Grace fears to pour itself, because she shall abuse it, and shall use it to offend me." March 16th, 1918. The nourishment of Jesus. I felt a great need, and I turned my sorrowful laments to Jesus. And he, all goodness, came out from within my interior, clothed in a garment studded with most refulgent diamonds. And as though waking up from a great sleep, and all tenderness, told me, "My daughter, what do you want? Your laments wounded my heart, and I woke up to answer your needs immediately. You must know that I was inside your heart, and as you were doing your acts, your prayers, the reparations, as you were pouring yourself into my will and were loving me, I took everything for myself, and I used it to nourish myself and to embellish my garment with precious diamonds. This is so true that, as you were loving me, praying me, and so on, I did not remain on an empty stomach, as if you were doing nothing. I was the one who took everything, since you gave me full freedom. Now, when the soul does this, I cannot rest when she is in need. I make myself all for her. Tell me then, what do you want? And I told him my extreme needs, shedding bitter tears, to the point of wetting the most holy hands of Jesus. And sweet Jesus clasped me to his heart, pouring a most sweet water from his heart into mine, that refreshed all of me. And then he added, "My daughter, do not fear. I shall be all for you. If creatures shall be missing, I shall do everything. I shall bind you and release you. I shall never leave you without me. You are too dear to me. I have raised you in my will. You are part of myself. I shall guard you, and I shall say to everyone, 'Nobody touch her.' Therefore calm yourself, for your Jesus does not leave you." March 19th, 1918. Jesus feels nausea over the disunion of priests. Continuing in my usual state, my always lovable Jesus came, all afflicted, and told me, "My daughter, what nausea I feel over the disunion of priests. It is intolerable for me. Their disordered lives are the cause for my justice, to permit my enemies to be over them, to ill-treat them. The evil ones are already about to come out against them, and Italy is about to commit the greatest sin, that of persecuting my church and of dirtying her hands with innocent blood." And while he was saying this, he showed our allied nations devastated. Many places disappeared, and their pride knocked down. March 26, 1918. As one operates in the divine will, what is human remains as though suspended, and the divine life acts and takes its place. Continuing in my usual state, I was trying to fuse myself in the divine volition, and my sweet Jesus told me, "My daughter, every time the soul enters into my volition and prays, works, suffers, and so forth, she acquires as many new divine beauties. So one more act or one less done in my will is one more beauty or one less that the soul acquires. Not only this, but in each additional act that she does in my will, she takes one more divine strength, wisdom, love, sanctity, and the like. And while she takes the divine qualities, she leaves the human ones. Even more, as she operates in my will, what is human remains as though suspended, and the divine life acts and takes its place, and my love has the freedom to undertake its attitude within the creature." March 27th, 1918. By living in the divine will, the soul finds everything in a divine and infinite way. I was lamenting to Jesus, for I could not even listen to Holy Mass. And Jesus told me, "My daughter, am I not he who forms the sacrifice? Now, since I am present in each sacrifice, the soul who lives with me and in my will remains as though sacrificed together with me, not in one Mass, but in all the Masses. And since she lives in my will, she remains consecrated with me in all the hosts, Never go out of my will, and I shall let you reach wherever you want. Even more, between you and me, there shall be such electricity of communication that you shall not do one act without me, and I shall not do one act without you. So when you lack something, enter into my will, and you shall find ready whatever you want, as many masses as you want, as many communions, as much love as you want. Nothing is missing in my will. Not only this, but you shall find things in a divine and infinite way. April 8th, 1918. Difference between living united with Jesus and living in the divine will. Returning to the point about living in the divine will, I had been told that it was like living in the state of union with God. And my always lovable Jesus on coming told me, "My daughter, there is great difference between living united with me and living in my will." And as he was saying this, he stretched out his arms toward me and told me, "Come into my will, even for one instant, and you shall see the great difference." I found myself in Jesus. My little Adam was swimming in the eternal volition. And since this eternal volition is one single act that contains all acts together, past, present, and future, I, being in the eternal volition, took part in that single act that contains all acts, as much as it is possible for creature. I took part also in the acts that do not exist, and that must yet exist, until the end of the centuries, and until God shall be God. And for these two, I loved him, I thanked him, I blessed him, and so forth. There was not one act that would escape me, and I would now take the love of the Father, of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. I would make it my own, just as their will was my own, and I would give it to them as mine. How content I was to be able to give them their own love as mine, and how they found their full contentment and complete outpouring in receiving from me their own love as mine. But who can say everything? I lack the words. Now, blessed Jesus told me, "Have you seen what it is to live in my will? It is to disappear. It is to enter the sphere of eternity. It is to penetrate into the all-seeingness of the Eternal One, into the uncreated mind, and to take part in everything, as much as it is possible for creature, and in each divine act. It is to enjoy the use, even while being on earth, of all the divine qualities. It is to hate evil in a divine way. It is extending oneself to everyone without exhaustion, because the will that animates this creature is divine. It is the sanctity not yet known, that I shall make known, and that shall place the last ornament, and the most beautiful, the most refulgent, among all other sanctities, and shall be crown and fulfillment of all other sanctities. Now, to live united with me is not to disappear. Two beings can be seen together, and one who does not disappear cannot enter the sphere of eternity to take part in all the divine acts. Ponder well, and you shall see the great difference. April 12th, 1918. The soul must lean within Jesus. Finding myself in my usual state, I felt an extreme need of Jesus, and of leaning myself all within him. And my sweet Jesus came and told me, "My daughter, lean yourself completely within me. You shall find me always ready. I shall never be lacking to you. Even more, the more you lean within me, the more I shall pour myself into you. And since many times I feel the need to lean, I shall come to you and shall lean within you, using my own support that I have formed in you. And when I see that you despise the support of creatures, I shall love you twice as much, and I shall double for you my support." Then he added, "When the soul does everything to please me, to love me, and to live at the expense of my will, she comes to be like members to my body, and I glory in these members as my own. Otherwise, they would be like members dislocated from me, that give me pain, and not only to me, but to themselves and to their neighbor. These are members that spurt a matter such as to infect and wither the very good that they do." April 16th, 1918. Jesus comes as hidden in the pains. Continuing in my usual state, I felt my poor heart oppressed, and amid bitter pains, that is not necessary here to say. And my always lovable Jesus on coming told me, "My daughter, I send pains to creatures, so that in the pains they may find me. I am as though wrapped within the pains, and if the soul suffers with patience, with love, she tears the wrapping that covers me and finds me. Otherwise I remain hidden in the pain, and she shall not have the good of finding me, and I shall not have the good of revealing myself." Then he added, "I feel an irresistible force to spread myself toward the creatures. I would like to spread my beauty, to make them all beautiful. But the creature, dirtying herself with sin, rejects the divine beauty and covers herself with ugliness. I would like to spread my love, but loving what is not mine, they live numb with cold, and my love is rejected. I would like to communicate all of myself to man, overshadow him completely within my own qualities. But I am rejected, and in rejecting me, he forms a wall of division between me and him, to the point of breaking any communication between creature and creator. But in spite of this, I continue to spread myself. I do not withdraw, in order to find at least someone who would receive my qualities. And if I find him, I double my graces for him. I increase them 100-fold. I pour all of myself into him, to the point of making him a portent of grace. Therefore, remove this oppression from your heart. Pour yourself into me, and I shall pour myself into you. Jesus told you this, and that is enough. Have no concern about anything. and I shall do and take care of everything. April 25th, 1918. Jesus plays with Luisa. I was saying to my sweet Jesus, my life, how cattiva I am. There's a footnote here saying that cattiva in Italian means bad, naughty. And Jesus is using a play on the words of cattiva, bad, and cattivavi, meaning you have captivated. My life, how cattiva I am. But even though I am cattiva, I know that you love me. And my beloved Jesus told me, my little cattiva, you surely are cattiva. You have captivated my will. Had you captivated my love, my power, my wisdom, and so forth, you would have captivated part of me. But by captivating my will, you have captivated the whole substance of my being that crowns all my qualities, and therefore you have taken the whole of me at once. This is why I often speak to you not only about my will, but of the living in my will. Because since you have captivated it, I want you to know its qualities and the way how to live in my volition, so that you may live common and inseparable life together with me, and I may reveal to you the secrets of my will. Could you be more cattiva? And I, my Jesus, you are making fun of me. I want to tell you that I am really cattiva, and to help me to become good. And Jesus, yes, yes. And he disappeared. May 7th, 1918. The divine will grinds what is human. Continuing in my usual state, my sweet Jesus told me, my daughter, if for a few days you do not see me as usual, do not afflict yourself. Evil shall increase, and heaven and earth shall unite to strike man. And I do not want to afflict you by letting you see so many evils. And I, ah, my Jesus, the greatest pain for me is your privation. It is death without dying, a pain indescribable and without end. Jesus, Jesus, what are you saying? I without you, without life? Mind, Jesus, don't say this to me any more. And Jesus added, my daughter, do not become alarmed. I did not tell you that I shall not come at all, but not often. And I told you before so as not to make you worry. My will shall compensate for everything, because in my will the human remains ground down, and I extract the flower, the fruit, the crafting of my will, and I place it together with me to live common life. And the human, like a bran, remains separated and remains outside. Therefore let the machine of my will grind you thoroughly, so that nothing human may remain in you. May 20th, 1918. Everything is concentrated in the will of God. Continuing in my usual state, I was saying to my sweet Jesus, how I would like to have your desires, your love, your affections, your heart, and so forth. To be able to desire, to love, and so forth as you do. And my always lovable Jesus told me, My daughter, I do not have desires or affections, but everything is concentrated in my will. My will is everything in me. The one who cannot desires, but I can, in anything. One who does not have love wishes to love, but in my will there is the fullness, the font of true love. And since I am infinite, in one simple act of my will, I possess all goods that, overflowing from my being, descend for the good of all. If I had desires, I would be unhappy. I would lack something. But I possess everything. Therefore I am happy, and I make everyone happy. Infinite means having the power to do anything, possessing everything, making everything happy. The creature who is finite does not possess everything, nor can she embrace everything. And this is why she contains desires, anxieties, affections, and so forth, that she can use as many steps in order to ascend to the Creator, lap up the divine qualities into herself, and be filled so much as to overflow for the good of others. But if the soul concentrates all of herself in my will, dissolving herself completely in my volition, then she shall not just lap up my qualities, but in one single gulp she shall absorb me into herself, and she shall no longer have within herself her own desires and affections, but only the life of my will, that, dominating her completely, shall make everything disappear from her, and shall make my will reappear in everything. May 23rd, 1918. The Flights of the Soul in the Divine Will. This morning my sweet Jesus did not come, and I spent it amid sighs, anxieties, and bitternesses, but all immersed in his will. As the night came, I could not take any more, and I kept calling him over and over again. My eyes could not close. I felt restless. I wanted Jesus at any cost. At that point he came and said to me, "My dove, who can say to you the flights that you take in my will, the space that you cover, the air that you swallow? No one, not even you, would be able to say it. I alone can say it. I, who measure the fibers. I, who number the flights of your thoughts, of your heartbeats. And as you fly, I see the hearts that you touch. But do not stop. Fly to more hearts, and knock again and again, and fly over again. And on your wings bring my I love you to more hearts, to make me loved. And then in one single flight, come to my heart to take refreshment, to then start again more rapid flights. I amuse myself with my dove, and I call the angels and my little mama to amuse themselves with me. But you know, I am not telling you everything. The rest I shall tell you in heaven. Oh, how many surprising things I shall tell you." Then he placed his hand on my forehead and added, "I leave you the shadow of my will, the breath of my volition. Sleep." And I fell asleep. You have reached the end of the Book of Heaven. Volume 12, Part 5. Fiat.